On D, the first flight of the orbital Discovery, and the shuttle has cleared the tower.
Welcome back to Un-Shuck Yourself, powered by the Corpus Christi Originals Podcast Network. I'm Ben De Leon, and today I want to start this episode with a quote that stopped me in my tracks the first time I heard it. If you can't sit in a room alone for 20 minutes, you have a problem you haven't addressed yet. See, that blew my mind when I first heard it. Not because it's clever, but because of how true it actually is. We live in a world where silence has become almost impossible. The moment we wake up, we reach for our phones. We fill every empty moment with music, podcasts, television, social media, work, text messages, notifications, and endless distractions. And we become so accustomed to the noise that we mistake it for living. But what if all that noise isn't entertainment? What if it's camouflage? Here's something I've noticed. Most people don't fear being alone. They fear being alone with their thoughts. There's a difference. We can spend hours by ourselves scrolling through social media and never actually spend a single minute with ourselves. Because the moment the distractions stop, something starts speaking. Maybe it's regret, maybe it's grief, maybe it's anxiety, maybe it's a dream we've ignored for years. Maybe it's a relationship we know isn't working. Maybe it's the realization that we're living a life that doesn't resemble the one we once planned. Silence has a way of bringing those things to the surface, and that's exactly why so many people avoid it. Imagine your mind is like a lake. When the water is completely stirred up, you can't see what's beneath the surface. But when everything becomes still, clarity appears. The problem is that clarity isn't always comfortable. Sometimes we discover wounds we never healed. Sometimes we find fears we never confronted. Sometimes we realize we're exhausted from carrying things we convinced ourselves don't bother us. Noise keeps all of that hidden, and the stillness reveals it. And revelation is often mistaken for suffering. People say, every time I sit quietly, my mind races. And that's not because stillness created the problem. Stillness exposed it. The storm was already there. You just couldn't hear it over the noise. Most people think growth comes from learning more. I know I'm guilty of this. But sometimes growth comes from listening more. Listening to the voice you've been drowning out. The one that asks uncomfortable questions. The one that says, are you really happy? Is this what you really want? What are you avoiding? What are you afraid of? Those questions don't disappear because we ignore them. They simply wait patiently for a quiet moment. And when that moment finally arrives, many people panic and immediately reach for a distraction. Where's my phone? Turn on the television. I need a conversation. Anything to avoid the actual conversation happening inside their own mind. Here's the irony. The thing we're avoiding is often the very thing that could set us free. The grief you refuse to feel, the anger you refuse to acknowledge, the dream you refuse to pursue, the truth you refuse to admit. None of these things get smaller because we avoid them. They grow in the shadows. They influence our decisions, our relationships, and our happiness without us even realizing it. But once they're brought into the light, they become manageable. Not easy, manageable. That's why stillness requires courage. Because stillness doesn't distract, it reveals. So here's your challenge for the week. Sometime, find 20 minutes. No television, no phone, no podcasts, no distractions. Just you sit in a quiet room and listen. not to the world, to yourself. Pay attention to what immediately surfaces. What thoughts keep returning? What feelings demand your attention? What truths have been waiting for you to acknowledge them? Don't judge them, don't fight them, just notice them. Because awareness is where change begins. The goal isn't to become someone who enjoys silence. The goal is to become someone who no longer fears silence. Because the person you become in a quiet room is the person you really are. And if 20 minutes of stillness feels uncomfortable, that discomfort may be pointing towards something important, something unresolved, something waiting to be healed, something waiting to be understood. Remember, noise can entertain you, noise can distract you, noise can even comfort you, but only stillness can reveal you. And sometimes the most important conversation you'll ever have is the one that you happen to have when the world gets quiet. I'm Ben De Leon, and this has been Un-Shuck Yourself. Until next time.